I hope you're doing well today. This is Marcel Schoen with LATICRETE Technical Services. Today I'm going to go over our technical data sheets 175, 175M on cold weather tiling and grouting, exterior veneer setting, or pointing. These documents are going to have some great tips whenever doing these types of applications in cold weather. As you can imagine, conventional Portland cement tile setting beds, thin sets, grouts, pointing mortars, even cement plasters are often permanently damaged when subject to below freezing temperatures immediately after installation. If the water used to mix these products freezes before it's able to cure, you'll in hand experience significant loss in strength, flexibility, and durability of your installation. And as always, subsequent repairs to the damage work is going to be a lot more costly than it would be to do it right the first time. You may have heard it before, but the simplest rule to follow during these types of installations is going to be the 18-degree rule, which could simply be explained as for every 18 degrees below 70 degrees that these Portland cement products and even our epoxy-based products are subjected to, it'll take those products twice as long to cure. So these products, when they're created, tested, brought to market, are all based on 70-degree temperatures. They're intended to be used in that temperature and perform in that type of environment. So again, for every 18 degrees below that temperature that you're subjecting these installations to, it's going to take that material twice as long to cure. So if a product says on the data sheet that it has a 24-hour cure time, but you install that material on a 52-degree day, you're looking at a 48-hour cure time. That's not even taking into account the other things like humidity and other factors that could affect that install as well. So you can imagine what that would do to cure times on a 40-degree day. And then again, if you get into freezing temperatures, it's basically the kiss of death. When any cement product cures, you're looking for crystalline structures to form. If the water content in these mixes freezes, you're not allowing that process to happen. And if you don't let the chemical reaction occur that needs to, you are detrimentally affecting the performance of your install. Again, in the form of loss of strength, flexibility, and overall durability of your installation. So short of reading the data sheet for the product that you're installing and making sure that you are in the right temperature range, we also highly recommend using LATICRETE latex fortified mortars in these types of environments as well. The use of products like our 254 Platinum, 257 Titanium, Multimax Light, MVIS High Bond Veneer Mortar, or Lightweight Mortar all come to mind as Portland cement mortars that will allow the work to continue in cold weather without costly delays or damage. These types of products allow installations to be made in temperatures as low as 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And I just want to make it clear I'm talking about surface temperature there. So make sure when you go out to a job to install exterior and it's cold, you're not just looking at the weather outside, you're concerned about the actual substrate temperature and even environmental conditions, rain, snow, anything like that in the forecast, all things you need to worry about. And worth pointing out, frost, ice, and thermal shock will not damage LATICRETE latex fortified mortars after initial set. They're essentially going to be inert, so they can handle the coldest climates, be submerged in pools, for example, and handle that deep freeze and then thaw out the following season. Use of a premium rapid setting thin set mortar will help to accelerate the setting time in cooler temperatures. A product like our 254 Platinum Rapid would be ideal for this application, for example. Shipping and storage is also important to consider, and is a common way these cold weather projects go south. So in cold weather installs, you're not only considering the conditions at the time of install, but also how were the materials delivered to the job site, and how were they stored there the night or days before the project as well. Definitely important to consider anytime you're installing in cold weather. So always make sure that you're shipping and storing installation materials at temperatures above freezing. You don't want to load a guy's truck up at the end of the day, have him park it in his driveway, and have all that stuff freeze overnight. If that does happen, make sure that the product can be freeze-thawed, and you always want to make sure that you let these products completely thaw before using them. So if they do sit overnight, say if you do have a bag of powders and they sit overnight and freeze or exposed to frozen temperatures, you want to let them thaw completely before using them, allowing the products to come up to room temperature of approximately 70 degrees Fahrenheit. If you have this occur with our epoxy products, you could take the liquid pouches that have been in cooler temperatures and warm them by submerging them in unopened pouches in warm water until they're up to the right temperature. Worth noting, if you ever see these epoxies separated, the A and Bs, in their own bags, if you see those separated at all, they're not going to chemically form like they need to when you mix them up again. That's usually a clear sign that the products have frozen and at that point are not usable anymore. If you don't see that separation, again, you're usually okay to go if you get those back up to room temperature, and you should have no problem with your install. You should be doing this anyway, but you essentially want to make sure that you're always acclimating your products, even including waterproofing membranes, crack isolation membranes, sound control products. You want to make sure that they're in their respective usage range at the time of use. Protection's a big part of cold weather install success as well. As I touched on before, due to these lower temperatures, these Portland cement products are going to take longer to hydrate and therefore are going to take longer to develop their strength. You want to make sure you protect these types of installs from traffic longer than you normally would. You're going to want to keep all the traffic off the finished work until it's fully cured. Ask for the extra time on the job, warn them up front, so it doesn't become a problem for the performance of your install after. Again, doing it right the first time is always the best approach. It's important to note that large format tiles and stone will also require longer cure times in cold temperatures. And this isn't just coming from us. These are industry standards. For example, the TCNA, the Tile Council of North America, has a Protecting New Tile Work section, which has direct language on how to protect these types of installs even after the material is cured. So as you've already learned, considering the right temperatures, the right products, right temperatures for those products, in addition to the right shipping and storage of these materials before install, other things you could do to create successful installations in cold weather would naturally be working through warmer periods of the day. So if you're asked to bid a project that might install in December and the schedule has you starting at 7 a.m., you might want to suggest to the general contractor that you bid labor to be installed maybe at a later time of the day. As always, you're going to want to look at the product data sheet, making sure that you're in the right surface temperature range for that product, which again means that that surface, if the product says 40 degrees, has to be 40 degrees, not the air temperature. You can get temperature guns at a very, very affordable price nowadays. Just shoot that at the surface and make sure you're within the right range before you install. Look at the cure time as well. If that product has a 24-hour cure and you install in the right temperature range at 5 o'clock, but the temperature drops below freezing overnight, that's going to affect the quality of your install and almost certainly lead to a failure. Again, because that water, polymer, hydration reaction that has to occur in these products to make them work the way they do isn't going to be able to happen if that water freezes. If you know these elements are going to be present, make sure that you have it in the job to tent and heat these areas, keeping them within the right range during the installation and for the needed cure period after. If you do use temporary heating equipment, make sure it's vented correctly and in accordance with OSHA's and the local building code regulations. Also worth noting, if using a gas type heater, be careful because some of those actually throw off an invisible layer that goes onto the floor and could be a bond breaker when you come to install the new flooring. Just be mindful of those types of things. Another good thing worth pointing out when talking about protecting these type of cold weather installs is protecting from wind as well. Don't only consider the air temperature. Wind can play a huge factor. They can cause premature evaporation of the water necessary for that hydration we talked about, which can also result in loss of strength. Like I touched on before, don't forget about wet conditions. Look at the forecast if there's going to be rain or snow. Make sure you hold off on the install until the weather is going to be dry. As you know, many directed heated assemblies are moisture sensitive. The added water to these materials before initial set, again, will not allow these materials to cure properly, which will negatively affect your install. And just like with the cold temperatures, if you're not able to protect from these wet conditions, you're going to have to take the necessary corrective actions to protect these installs from that as well. So you may be looking at tarps, temporary enclosures, or simply by waiting until the conditions are ideal again for your install. Long story short, the best thing to do is going to be make sure you know the product that you're using, look at that product's data sheet. It's going to have a very specific temperature range on it. It's going to have very specific cure times on it. As long as you stay within those parameters and make sure that your space is conditioned within those limits, and you consider things like the 18-degree rule, you will certainly be able to make a quality installation in a cold weather application. Thank you very much for your time, and as always, thank you for choosing LATICRETE.